Good evening, everybody, and thank you for coming to this thing. We'll have the Brewster School kids come up and start the Pledge of Allegiance. So I got a sporting French, please rise and take off your hats if you. Thank you so much. You have a motion to the agenda?
Don't move.
Second, any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Jenny, you're on.
Where?
This is Liz here. Just let me know when you want to share the presentation.
Good evening, my name is Gus. I already did. Good evening, my name is Gus. And my name is Ian. We are the Brewster SEL foreigners. Every week during assembly, we report to all of Brewster School what we learned in SEL.
This week.
This week, we are reporting to you the Board of Education. Thanks for having us. We are excited to share with you all we have learned. This year in SEL, we used a special program called the Piglet Program.
Again.
Okay.
So 3, 2, 1.
Thanks for having us. We are excited to share what we have learned. This year in SEL, we used a special program called the Piglet Program. Piglet is a real-life dog that actually came to our school. Piglet has some challenges in life because Piglet is both blind and deaf. Through the Piglet program, we learned that Piglet didn't let these challenges define his life. He overcame the challenges. He overcame these challenges by using these magical SEL words: kindness, friendly, inclusion, and responsibility, perseverance, consideration, flexibility, and optimism. Piglet also taught us about his Piglet pack. Piglet's pack helps him through the day and picks him up when he feels low or sad. We learned that we have a Piglet pack at Brewster School, and it's filled with our friends and our favorite grown-ups. We picked our favorite SEL words and drew a picture. Here are our pictures and words from our Piglet pack. I am showing inclusion by saying, do you want to play with me? I'm showing Piglet learning his task. I'm showing kindness by helping someone when they fall. I ask them, do you need help? In my picture, I'm showing flexibility by letting someone else go on the last swing. In my picture, I am showing flexibility by saying okay to a change of plans. I am showing kindness by helping my friend get up. I am showing perseverance by never ever giving up on the monkey bars. In my picture, I'm asking someone if they want to play with me. In my picture, I'm showing someone being friendly by playing fetch with Piglet. In my picture, I show flexibility by changing plans when a store was closed. In my picture, I'm showing kindness by helping someone carry some stuff so they can get out the door. In my picture, I'm showing inclusion by Piglets pack up playing together. In my picture, Piglet is helping another dog. In my picture, I'm showing being kind by saying keep going. In my picture, I'm showing Piglet trying to go up the stairs. I'm showing perseverance because Piglet will keep trying until he gets it.
That's right. Right, and we love learning.
We love learning about Pig. We love learning about Piglet and think he's just so cute. Thank you for letting us share our SEL learning with you. We hope you have a great night.
Your dogs really happy birthday and they all thank you at school.
I don't know.
Hero, come on. So like, yeah, there was a couple that was blindly passed and they, he was, just like that. It could have been, like.
Thank you all. Yes, thanks for lecture. Do you want to take?
Thank you, that was very smart to stay.
That's perfect. A lot of big heavy.
I don't, but I just wanted her to stay for questions. Do you want Mrs. Murray to stay for questions?
There was this thing about a dog, I think, just like that. As a therapy dog, I was around school, I did lots of learn. To say has something. And celebrate.
Yeah.
Like, you say.
I read that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I have so much about.
Such a good time.
Yeah.
On the agenda, it's more exciting for some of us, at least one of us, is the audit report.
I'm gonna go on a hunch the auditor and die in the corner over there.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, right. I knew it. Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. I don't know if it's gonna be exciting, but I'll keep it brief for you guys.
Just make sure you say your name and.
Yeah, my name is David Flint. I'm a principal at Clifton Larson Allen, the region's audit firm. Hopefully everybody has a copy of the financial statements. I'm gonna kind of guide you through that tonight. Kind of just go over the areas that I think you guys should know as those charged with governance. So starting with the financial statements, I'm going to refer you to page 1. And that is what is known as our independent auditors report. And our opinion itself is right there in the second paragraph. In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of RSD 13. That is known as an unmodified opinion, and that is the best opinion that can be given. What did you hire us to do? Well, on the next page, our objectives are to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error, and issue an auditor's report that includes our opinions. It's important that we note there that we say reasonable assurance because the only way we could provide absolute assurance, of course, is if we reviewed every single transaction. And of course, that is not reasonable. So skipping ahead to the actual financial statements, which start on page 13. This is your statement of net position, more commonly known as a balance sheet. And this is performed on the full accrual basis of accounting, which means that it includes both your long-term assets or your capital assets and your long-term debt. Up in the asset section, you'll see there's capital assets, which total $37 million. And then we also have our long-term debt down in the non-current liabilities, which total $15 million. That brings us down to a total net position of $23.6 million. The majority of that, your net investment in capital assets, is $26.6 million. And what that is basically your capital assets less any debt used to acquire those capital assets. So it's kind of a good indicator of how leveraged your capital assets are. So we have $37 million in capital assets, 26.6 million of that is free and clear of any debt. You have some small restrictions here, but the remainder of it is unrestricted net position, which is a deficit of $3.6 million. I wouldn't look too much into that deficit because, like I said, we're bringing on over $15 million of long-term liabilities with this statement, which leads to that deficit. More importantly, looking at page 17, these are your fund financial statements. So the district has four major funds: your general fund, your school cafeteria fund, your special school grants and programs fund, your capital reserve fund, and then that fifth column is your non-major governmental funds, which is all the smaller funds aggregated together. And again, I'm on page 17. So you see for the general fund had a net change in fund balance or net income for the year of $237,000. And that brings your ending fund balance to $365,000. School cafeteria fund had a $184,000 deficit, which brings your fund balance down to $190,000. The special school grants and programs fund had a small deficit, $1,400, and your fund balance at the end of the year was just under $6,000. A fund like this that is primarily all grant activity, we would expect to see no fund balance in a fund like this. So that's what we're expecting to see. And then we have our capital reserve fund, which has a $1.3 million deficit for the year, but still a positive fund balance of $3.7 million. In a capital fund like this, you're going to see large fluctuations in fund balance from year to year based on the timing of capital projects and the timing of grants received or debt issued to fund those capital projects. And then we have our aggregate remaining, our non-major funds. We had a $72,000 surplus, which brings our total fund balance to $452,000. On page 20, just want to look real quick. We have our pension trust fund. You'll see that the pension trust fund had a change in net position of $1.2 million for the year. So a positive $1.2 million result in your pension trust fund. And that it brings ending net position to $13.6 million.
And what level of funding is that?
It is almost 100% funded, and I'll go through that in a little bit.
It says better than the state.
What's that?
It says better than the state.
A lot better. Okay, so page 35, I always like to just go through the long-term debt. And you'll see at the bottom of page 35, note E, the changes in long-term liabilities. The district has $6.2 million in bonds outstanding. Some of the other big things are we have the lease liabilities of $5.6 million for all the various equipment that the district leases. We have compensated absences of $250,000. That's your accrued sick and vacation time. And then we have your net pension liability, which is only $291,000, which is fantastic. Like I said, that pension is almost 100% funded. And then the total OPEB liability is $2.2 million. Skipping ahead to the budget to actual schedule for the general fund. So page 59 is what is known as RSI 1. And this is your budget to actual schedule for revenues for the general fund. Basically, it shows, it's a good representation of how you're budgeting, how your actual results compare to how it was budgeted. You have your original budget, your final budget, and then of course your actual. The next page, RSI 2, is the same thing, but for expenditures. You'll be able to see what your original budget, your final budget, and the actual for all the various line items that you guys budget. Just a good check to kind of see how you're doing compared to budget. I'm not going to go through that individually, but a good thing for you guys to go through. So Bob, to your question, RSI 3 on page 62, it's a look at the district's pension plan. And for 2025, you'll see down the bottom, net pension liability of $291,000. And that plan is 97.9% funded, which is fantastic. The next page, you'll see that your actuary, the district's actuary calculated that you could put $345,000 into that pension plan, and that's exactly what you put in. Then finally, on page 64, it's your investment rate of return for the pension plan. And you guys had a 12.2% rate of return for the investments within your pension plan for fiscal year 25, which is great. You also have an OPEB plan and another post-employment benefit plan. There is no trust associated with the plan, which means there's no investments set aside to pay the benefits out of this plan. You're just paying those benefits as they come up each year. The total liability associated with that OPEB plan is $2.2 million. That's on page 66. So that's kind of the high level of the financial statement. Does anyone have any questions for me before I move on to the federal and state single audits?
I have a question.
Absolutely.
Oh, so I'm just curious how it works. So I was looking at the change in net position. So total revenues of 50.9 million, but we spent more than our revenue. So obviously, you know, spend more than what you had. So how do you use that to like balance that?
So this is a management discussion and analysis, which is obviously prepared by management. But what this is this is a summary of that first statement that I went through, which is on the full accrual basis of accounting. So you're often going to see large fluctuations in the net income. Like this year, it was relatively small, but when we have those large liabilities, like the OPEB liability and the pension liability, those fluctuate pretty big from year to year. So let's say that liability 1 year could go up, right?
Yeah.
That's all going to flow through that.
Okay.
So you might see a huge change in that from year to year,
Okay.
just from those liabilities and bringing those on the books.
Okay.
That's why I always like, if you really want to see, you know, the health of how your funds are doing, really we want to look at the fund financial.
So then that leads me to my next question of it just on the capital reserve fund, something that like, I don't know, like, I guess when I'm looking at it, the fluctuation there just seems, I get with the timing of projects, especially with capital, but if I started the year with 5 million and then, you know, probably have like, you know, 1.6 of like reimbursement, I had 3 million of projects, but now I'm in this deficit of 1.3. It just seems like a huge shift.
Yep, so like the $2 million, that
Yeah.
should be, that's the capital expenditure that you have in the year, and then that number below it, about $1 million, is actually the debt service, the repayment of those bonds. So right there alone, you have $1.6 million of money coming in, and $3 million going out. So obviously if that trend continues.
But I started the year with 5. I guess like that, I'm like, it doesn't seem.
And, you know, when you, for example, when school construction runs through here, you might see a $20 million loss in that year. And then you will continue to see that loss until you either get state funding and your school construction grants, or you bond it.
And you don't, for the school construction reimbursement piece, you wouldn't book a receivable to offset that.
You would book a receivable, but since it's not received within 60 days of year end, it's deferred. And that's what's different between governmental accounting and regular accounting. So it's only receivables that are received right after year end that are going to affect your bottom line. Those school construction receivables, dare I say, some of them hang around for a decade.
I guess I know, it just doesn't seem to like the flow of that one. Like the other ones I think are easier to follow,
I
but
understand.
this one here seemed a little off. So, okay.
And I'm sure if you really wanted to dig into the detail with me, I'm sure you'd be happy to do that.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, so we do two other audits besides the financial statement audit. We do a federal single audit and a state single audit. So for the federal single audit, we report all the federal grants expended. So not necessarily received, we report them when they're actually spent. And you'll see on page one, again, in our opinion, regional school district, an unmodified opinion here on compliance, which is great. But more importantly, on page four, this is a listing of all the federal grants expended for fiscal year 25. Team totals $869,000. That's down from 1.1 million in 2024, which is a trend that we're seeing everywhere as those COVID grants are running out. In addition to our first opinion on compliance, we also provided an opinion on internal control over financial reporting, which is on page 6. While it is unmodified, we did identify a certain internal control deficiency, which is outlined here in the last page. And what happened was an invoice for the Memorial School project didn't come in until August, which it came in really late. So it ended up getting put into fiscal year 26. We happened to select it for testing. Notice that the work actually occurred back in June. So we accrued it back to fiscal year 25. Of all the things we find this one the most common. I don't look at it as a big deal, but it is our responsibility to report it. We do the same thing for the state single audit. Oh, sorry, one more thing. So we do follow the federal government's formula on what programs we have to test each year. And at a minimum, we have to meet a certain percentage of total expenditures tested. And for major programs, we have to test them once every 3 years. So for this year, we tested the IDEA program, the special education cluster. No issues were found with that. So state single audit report is the same setup. So again, unmodified opinion on compliance. Page 4 has all the state expenditures. We tested 2 programs here, and you'll see them right in the middle. The HVAC indoor air quality program, that's through Department of Administrative Services. That was HVAC upgrades for Memorial School. That was actually $1.2 million expended in fiscal year 25. And then we also tested the Urban Action Grant, which was $412,000, and that was funding to complete the athletic complex. Last year, expenditures for state grants was only $477,000 in total. And you'll see this year it's $2.4 million because of a large increase from those 2 grants. So you can see how the total can fluctuate pretty extreme from one year to the other, just based on the timing of grants and what projects are going on. You'll start to see school construction payments going through there, and you'll start to see, obviously this number will become very large. So page 8, again, it shows us the 2 programs that we had tested, the air quality program and the Urban Action Grant. And then again, just like in the federal report, we report that same finding related to that invoice here as well. Any questions on those federal and state single audits for me?
Again, that was just invoice came after the work was completed.
Yeah, it came late. It came in August, and they're pretty great. They get ready for us really soon, and it's just the result of the fiscal close happening before this invoice came in. And we talked about it. We got to just make sure we're aware of these going forward, and make sure we get them accrued back to the proper fiscal year.
August is the toughest month. I always get confused what year I'm in. So I would totally attest to it's very easy to what fiscal year am I doing right now? So it happens.
Well, I appreciate the time, guys. If you ever have any questions, you're ready to reach out to me.
The federal, since they use a different fiscal year, does that mess up you on this thing?
It doesn't. So the federal single audits are due 9 months after year end, regardless of what year end is. So technically, the federal single audit is not due until March 31st.
Yeah.
Although we typically always file them the same time we file with the state, which is 12/31.
Okay.
Although it was a problem this year because we did not have the federal compliance supplement until December something. It was
Yeah.
crazy
It was like the latest it's ever been.
by like months.
Yeah.
Yeah, it threw a huge curveball for us, but we got them done.
Okay. Any other questions? Kim, anything?
No questions. I want to thank Kim for Kim, Mrs. Newbig and her department just for getting the best management letter feedback that
Yes.
we can get.
The big picture, this was another smooth audit.
And I want to thank Tip because this
Mhm,
is a heavy lift for her and she does a great job.
absolutely.
Well, thank you. Everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You just need to vote to accept the audit.
We need to have a vote to accept the audit, or the motion to approve the vote.
So moved.
For a second, any questions, comments? All in favor? Aye. Check the eye.
Aye.
All right, next item is number 4, public comment, in-person public comment. Do you have any?
And I do too.
Huh?
I do have fun dog. Some of them, I find it's a one half dozen. Do you want me standing?
Doesn't matter.
Okay, my name is Elizabeth Shouty. I'm a resident of Durham. And I'm here to read a letter from Christina Talbert Slagle, who could not be here tonight. She is also a resident of Durham. Dear members of the RSD 13 Board of Education, I write as a taxpaying member of this district, a regular Durham voter, and a parent of 2 children who graduated from Coggeshall Regional High School. We removed our 3rd child from RSD 13 due to our growing concerns about the issues in the district. She is now in a magnet school elsewhere in the state. Let me be clear that I am not writing in my role as chair of the Durham Democratic Town Committee. In this email, I speak only for myself. Again, this is not my words. I respectfully request that in tonight's meeting, you accede to the Board of Selectmen's request and rescind the Board of Education's prior vote on whether or not you support indemnification for former BoE Chair Lindsay Dahlmeyer, then re-vote. I have followed this issue closely, not least because my husband is the chair of the Durham Ethics Commission. I watched as he and his fellow commission members put in many hours of personal volunteer time doing their utmost to provide Ms. Dahlmeyer with a fair evaluation process. They succeeded and generated not only a unanimous decision that Dahlmeyer repeatedly violated the Durham Code of Ethics, but also that there are clear steps to take redress these wrongs. I have also followed this issue because I care about the reputation of our district and our town. During Dahlmeyer's tenure, so many embarrassing issues arose and were widely publicized that they thoroughly distracted many of you and many of us from what the focus of RSD 13 should be: strong and continuously improving education for the children in our district. The board's prior vote to support indemnification for Ms. Dahlmeyer, which I found embarrassing both in the way that it was conducted with Dahlmeyer present and active, and its outcome, should be rescinded and redone given the Ethics Commission's finding. Please recognize that the past choices and mistakes of RSD 13 board have real consequences. Many families like mine are watching closely. Many of us have chosen to take advantage of our many options to pursue high-quality education for our children outside of this district. Others may follow. You need to take decisive public action to convey clearly to the people of Durham and to all of the families and staff of RSD 13 that this embarrassing era for our district is over. Do not ignore this issue or attempt to sweep it under the rug. Take action. The Board of Selectmen's request for you to hold a revote, echoing the recommendation of the Ethics Commission, offers an honorable way forward and a way to close this embarrassing chapter in our history. This is an easy one. Please do the right thing. Finally, when you do, hopefully, hold a revote, I urge you to vote no on indemnification. I do not support using the district's insurance and any associated taxpayer funds, including future premium increases, to cover Ms. Dahlmeyer's legal fees. I recognize that a revote, regardless of outcome, may not affect the insurance company's decision-making, but a majority no vote on the current Board of Education would certainly reflect the public's preferences, and it would send clear signals to everyone in RSD 13 and beyond that this issue, as well as the many highly public embarrassing problems caused by the former Board of Education chair, are finally behind us. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Sincerely, Christina Talbert Slagle.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Rib injury, so I'm moving a little stuff over here.
Chair.
Can I sit
You want chair?
at the end?
Yeah, you bet.
Okay. There's a cushion on there.
Yeah.
Sit right on the end. Perfect. If I don't use my teacher projection voice.
Right.
I didn't have enough time to make multiple copies, but I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but I just wanted to give you the whole thing, and I'll send an e-copy of, thank you, this. Also, do some share of these. So, I know we have to stick to my 3-minute rule. So, my name is Rhonda Riggett Stevens. I live at 40 Vince Lane in Durham. My kids, both of them went through the district K through 12. I'm also here to talk about, the letter from the first selectman, recommending that the Board of Education, rehold the vote for indemnification. So I got, so in my note here, I'll read just the highlights from what I have time for. So at this point in time, the public is extremely skeptical if all Board of Education members who voted in favor of indemnification had all the facts about the nature of the personal lawsuit filed against Lindsay Dalheimer by Anthony DeFilio, and if they were aware of the statutory and insurance requirements for the indemnification coverage. I would like to ask the Board of Education to please consider the following timeline and request additional information. So the initial lawsuit was filed on June 17th. On June 23rd, 2025, Kim Newbig writes Nancy Cosgrove at Acrisure saying, "Good morning. Here's another potential litigation. Our board chair is being sued by a football coach. It appears to be a personal claim. However, due to the fact that she is our board chair, we felt it is necessary to report to you. You can find the article in the Middletown Press." Then, which I got from Sydney, provided this information to me through a FOIA request. On June 23rd, Nancy Cosgrove, who is the vice president at Acrisure, writes back, "Hi, Kim. Dave Harris pulled up the complaint on the judicial website, and it does not mention her official capacity as Board of Ed chair or anything regarding Regional School District 13. This appears to be a personal suit and not one that would provide defense under the district's public official policy." So then on July 2nd, Attorney Mooney bills District 13 1.5 hours for a conference with Lindsay Dalheimer regarding the indemnification request, a conference with another attorney, again, all surrounding her indemnification request. And again, that's on these are all from my FOIA request. Skipping ahead on the timeline, on July 16th, 2025, the Board of Education returns from executive session, and minutes state the following: that Mr. Moore stated, in accordance with the Connecticut General Statute, Section 10235, the Board of Education has approved Mrs. Dalheimer's request to be indemnified in her role as board chair. Mr. Moore made a motion, seconded by Mr. Ramon, to approve the indemnification by board chair, Mrs. Dalheimer. So here are the questions I would like the board to ask itself when you decide whether or not to have this revote. And before you vote, look into this information: is why was the board being asked to vote on indemnification for Lindsay Dalheimer when it has never been asked to vote on indemnification before? Can I finish them? If nobody else? Okay, thank you.
I mean, I said,
There
yeah,
are,
only because you have the three, you said.
there are other people waiting for public
All
comment
right,
though.
how many? A lot.
They're online.
Oh, they're online. Okay. So, but I'd just like to finish this. This is really important. What evidence, if any, did the board have or review prior to the indemnification vote to ensure Lindsay Dalheimer was acting in her role as Board of Ed chair, which is required for indemnification, in her complaints to Deb Stone at CRHS and triggered Coach DeFilio's lawsuit? Ask Lindsay Dalheimer if she was acting in her official capacity as chair. Ask if she wanted the complaint to be anonymous or if she made it as Board of Ed chair. Ask Deb Stone for records of that complaint. And then what evidence did the Board of Education have or review prior to indemnification vote to ensure that Lindsay Dalheimer was acting in her role as chair required for indemnification in her complaints to DCF, which triggered Coach DeFilio's lawsuit? Ask Lindsay Dalheimer to provide for the chair the unredacted DCF report. She has it, she can give it to you. And review the title that she gave on this complaint. Did she title the complaint
as parent or as chairman of the Board of Ed or Board of Ed member. That's important because if the complaint was filed as a parent, then she would have listed parent on the complaint. If it was filed as a Board of Ed member, it would be as that on the complaint.
Thank you very much.
All right, and then I just want to add one additional thing. I'd also like the board to please ask Attorney Mooney for the memorandum that was submitted to the insurance company along with the insurance claim, because this memorandum outlines the defensible legal analysis of whether or not and to what extent it owes coverage and indemnification to the claim.
Thank you.
And the rest of my questions you
We have
there. Thank you.
any other comment, public comment? Online public comment?
I have all my documents.
I think so.
That was not mine, right?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay.
Amanda?
Yes.
Amanda?
Hi, good evening. My name is Amanda Betty. I'm from Durham. Here tonight. I had already sent this, and hopefully you guys can hear me. I'm sorry I have COVID, but I sent a copy of this to all the Board of Ed members, so you do have this in your email. But I want to state it for the record that I'm here tonight just to urge the board to act on the letter from the Durham Board of Selectmen regarding the Ethics Commission's findings. It's not, this is not merely a political request, it's a necessary correction to a documented failure of transparency and fiscal responsibility. Much like what Rhonda just said, the documents and testimonies surrounding this case reveal a deeply troubling timeline that contradicts the information presented to the board during the July 16th meeting. The agenda and presentation itself were misleading. We now know that the ethics hearings, the indemnification investigation items were added to the July 16th agenda only after private discussions between the former chair, Mr. Moore, and the superintendent. There's contradictory insurance information, like Rhonda stated. The broker explicitly stated that the lawsuit against the former chair appeared to be personal. Yet during the July 16th meeting, the administration focused on the Connecticut General Statute Section 10-235, framing indemnification as a standard legal mandate, while failing to provide specific details on deductibles or the personal nature of the claims cited by the broker. I'm not going to go into the other points because you have them in there and I won't take up your time. But I do feel that by ignoring the broker's initial warning that in the Ethics Commission's unanimous ruling, the board has placed the district in a position of significant legal and financial risk. Attempting to use public resources for a matter identified as personal through a vote that violated our ethics is a bridge too far for the taxpayers of this district. The Board of Selectmen is asking you to petition for a revote. The community is asking you to petition for a revote. This is your opportunity to clean the record. A fresh, transparent vote conducted without participation of conflicted parties and based on full disclosure of all the information, including the insurance broker's findings, the documented emails, everything that you have, is the only way to restore the integrity of the board's decisions. We speak about responsibility and honesty to our students, our children. We want them to do what's right. If we do not hold our own governing body to those same standards, when an ethical breach is proven, those words lose their meaning. So I'm asking you to vote tonight to acknowledge the Durham Board of Selectmen's letter and move to rectify the July 16th vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other online public comment?
Yes, it's Calvin coming in.
The screen is frozen. I know, it is for people at home too. My picture's still showing.
Huh. Right there on the big screen. It's funny because Nick's moving.
Yeah, Nick is moving. And
Yeah,
then
it's I think the owl cut out.
It's still lit up.
Yep.
Calvin, are you still lit?
Okay. We'll be all back up. There was a Calvin who had his hand up, but I don't see it anymore. Is there anybody else online who wants to raise a hand to come in to speak for public comment?
If not, we'll see you in a few hours.
I don't see any.
Okay, thank you very much. The next item is approval of minutes of the board on January 14th, January 24th, and January 28th. Have a motion to approve all three unless there's comments on any one of them.
So moved.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Are there any comments on any of those minutes?
At the training one, I think it says like I was part of like the adjournment, but I wasn't there. I
You
had
left.
yeah, at 7, so
You can make that a change.
Yeah. Otherwise, I think they were okay.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
I'm abstaining.
thank you. And one abstention, one more, right?
Yep.
Next is superintendent's report.
Okay, again, most of my report are a lot of the things that we have going on tonight. So I gave a brief highlight at the Student Achievement Committee right before here that the strategic planning work and the vision of a graduate is going really well. And we are also going to be incorporating a vision of instruction to go along with it. So I'm very appreciative of all the input that we got from the community, and it will start to take shape into some early drafts for first round of feedback at the end of March, early April.
What's the vision of instruction look like?
So we're starting with the vision of a graduate, which is, the district has gone down this road a few times before of like what the key expectations are, the attributes of every graduate that we want to have leaving Region 13. What bubbled up kind of organically through the feedback process was the need for a vision of instruction. So it would be the same kind of thing as like, what attributes are we going to hold as non-negotiables in every piece of instruction that we deliver to kids pre-K-12 and transition. We've been working really hard on the budget. A lot of our presentation tonight is going to be the budget. And other than that, I'm just going to submit my report as written. Unless there are any questions.
We give a report later on Memorial, right? Sure.
Yes. Mhm.
Thank you. Any other questions for Cindy? If not, we move to item 7, staff report, Director of Finance, discussion and possible vote to transfer completed capital project reserve funds.
Okay, thank you. We ended the month of January, we're here to date of January with 55% of our budget expended. We've encumbered 97% of it, and we've received 59% of our revenue. You have a vote before you this evening to transfer funds from completed or abandoned projects from capital reserve to general fund. We discussed this at the board retreat as a possibility for helping keep the net budget increase down. And this is a reflection of that. I have incorporated this into the budget. So if this is not approved, which it doesn't have to be, but if it's not, then I will need to adjust the revenue numbers, not the expenditures, but the revenue numbers. But so if you would like to consider that, the projects that were abandoned were asbestos tile remover at Lyman, $20,000. Ceiling tiles at Coggin $5,966. These were kind of things that have been on the books since I started here. We have some exterior doors at Brewster, $54,000 that we're not going to replace. If we needed to, we can, because we have unanticipated building repairs and maintenance. But to keep these funds tied up doesn't make sense. And then the pump house, the sprinkler, the pump house, we $439,064.08. That was paid for by bond funds. So we're able to put that back into the general fund and then be able to offset the net increase. So what that essentially will do will go to the fund balance. And then anything left over from that is always used to balance the upcoming year, the next year. So it always stays there.
Thank you, Kim. So we need a vote to transfer $519,000 and 19 and $30.24 to the general fund balance. Is
For
that
fiscal
correct?
year 26. Yes.
Have a motion to do that?
So moved.
That was second.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
What would be our other option with those funds?
So those can remain in capital reserve and can be earmarked for other projects. And that is entirely a possibility. What will happen though is the net budget, this is helping bring the net budget down, the net budget. So essentially those are taxpayer funds that we're just using to offset the increase that the tax assessment would be. But we could earmark them for other projects in capital reserve too.
And one of the reasons this is helpful is because in prior years, and we'll see in the budget presentation, is that there are no more capital reserve funds
No more fund
no
balance.
more fund balance to draw from. Okay.
Any other questions? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Next item is the budget.
Okay, if you just give me 1 second to share this so people at home can see it. We still have the Piglet presentation up, which is more adorable than the
Right.
budget presentation, but
You ain't kidding.
we'll move to the budget presentation. Is it? I'm gonna double check.
That's the time of the presentation. Can you escape out of? Big full place more than just what is the name of the presentation? Presentation, yep, that's cool.
Okay. Just a little bit. I'll disappear in a minute.
Unchanged.
There we go. All right. So, first of all, it is a total accident that Kid and I are wearing like kind of a sophisticated dress tonight, like we actually are. We were both astounded.
Go home and change.
The same things, right, in the same place, so maybe it's a sign of like a great aligned budget here or something like that.
Nice.
I'm
Well played.
It's really fun. It is. We're just messing with it. So, I'm pleased to be in Region 13. I'm also really proud to present the first, budget that I'll be presenting, and many thanks to everybody in the central office and our leadership team to brings this together. But we're gonna be looking at our proposed budget for the 26-27 school year. Also, just to clarify, the process tonight is just the presentation. And then more of the discussions and questions come through the board and the finance committees at the next work session and another board meeting prior to the public hearing. So this is the night where we're just officially laying out our proposed budget. So what we really want to focus on this year in my opening letter of this is we're trying to achieve a thoughtful balance in our budget of balancing our roots and our wings and focusing on learning. So our roots are, these represent the essential foundations needed to operate a strong and stable school. So this is where we have things in the budget for safe schools, supported classrooms, core resources required for daily success. You heard me talk a little bit about strategic planning. So we also need part of the wings of the budget, which is this represents where we have to go. So our responsibility to grow, which might be strategic planning, learning needs, it could be new state requirements, all of those other kind of things, but what's new and where we need to go, how we improve and prepare students for the ever-changing future. And everything is going to focus on learning. Everything is going to be always focused at the heart of every decision. So as we go through the budget process, as each administrator or director presents part of the budget, the questions are really, what does this do for kids? And that's how we make some very hard decisions. So striking the balance. It really requires discipline and intention. It means unfortunately having to make some difficult decisions that we are working on in the proposal that the board will have to make after more community input regarding reductions and sometimes reallocations of our resources. And then simultaneously really targeting resources where we're going to have the greatest impact on student learning and long-term district improvement.
Cindy, can I minimize the gallery?
If you can get that, yeah. So, you know, I used to teach journalism in addition to high school English, so you know, you don't bury the lead, right? So what we're looking at this year is we're looking at a gross budget proposal of $44,718,571, which is an increase of 5.11%. And we're looking at a net budget increase of 5.51%, which is, again, as we're talking about, there isn't as much fund balance available to kind of offset that. And that's why we're looking at those other ways that we can try and offset to bring the gross and the net a little bit closer together. The net budget being $43,343,129. To break that down a little bit, if you look at this pie chart represents just that 5.11% increase. So if you want to know at the core what makes up that 5.11% increase, we have 1.2% of that is salaries of a vacancy factor. So we used to factor in all salaries at 98%. But depending on hiring and changes in staff and all those kind of things, it was a way to minimize what we asked taxpayers to raise and appropriate. But that's not happening anymore. Our salaries are coming in budgeted at 100% or sometimes even a little bit more. So it's not a viable budget strategy to keep that vacancy factor in there. So we're budgeting all of our salaries at 100% now. So that change alone makes up 1.2% of the 5.11% increase. Contractual obligations, which is the new collective bargaining agreement, those kind of things, those represent 1.15% of that increase. Benefits, health insurance, we're on the state plan. That was estimated at, I think, about a 14% increase overall. For us, that represents 1.08% of our increase. Operating services, and we'll go into more detail about that, just kind of the increases that we need to run our daily operations is an increase of 1.04%. And then debt service is 1.44%. Other is 0.8%, negative 0.8. And you'll actually see that's a negative 0.8 because that's where we tried to make reductions in things like supplies and buildings and grounds, wherever we could make some reductions there. Just to have a different look at it, this is how it breaks down. So it's the salaries, the vacancy factor, the contractual obligations, the benefits, operating services, debt service, and other, and that's where we get the 5.11% increase. And again, we're going to go into more detail about all those things that go into each of those categories. Before Kim takes over with expenditures, are there any questions about just the big overview of the increase? I do also want to preface this by saying that around 5 is kind of the average we're seeing in our whole region. So we are not out of step with others in our area, and it's for many of the very same reasons too.
Okay, thank you. So the expenditures you heard, what the total was, the proposed $44,718,571. That is a change of $2,176,000 and 7. Yes, thank you. $2,176,024, which makes up the 511. And you can see how that's broken down. And we're going to go through each slide that's going to show the percent to the increased change and what that's made up of. Salaries is an increase of $1,387,000. And you will see in a few slides how that is comprised. Benefits, $458,584. Purchase services, an increase of $86,212. Facilities and grounds had a decrease of $6,397. Operating services had an increase of $442,719. And supplies had a decrease of $106,972. Capital, a decrease of 303,688. And dues and fees, a decrease of $8,022. Debt service, an increase of $613,200. Again, we'll go into detail on that in a future slide. There we go. Revenues, same kind of breakdown. We budgeted the adult ed, we proposed a revenue of 15,000. Facilities and grounds, 50,000. Interest income, 50,000. In-house tuition, 30. Activities, fees, and others, 53,900. Fund balance, you'll see 450,000. That's the area that I mentioned that you just transferred the money so that I can put that $450,000 in there. Yes, you transferred 519, but it wouldn't be prudent to put the whole 519 there because then I'm going to be asking you again to do it again, and we are out of abandoned projects at this point. So that's why it's showing at 450. The special ed excess, 713, 542. And other grants, 13,000. Those are just small grants. That totals 43,343,129. If I could though, actually go back, and I know you probably know this, but what's the difference between the gross and the net budget? So the gross budget is an increase in expenditures from running the district. The net budget is gross expenditures minus revenue, right? So the towns will pay the net balance, not the gross. But the taxpayers vote on the gross increase. So it is kind of a hard thing to wrap your head around. But so with that, when you don't have a fund balance to offset that is why that gets higher than net. It doesn't mean that expenses went up 5.51. That just means the town is paying 5.51% more than they did last year because of the 511 increase and because of the lack of the fund balance. This is just a bar chart of where the changes are. Again, salaries, we're a people business. We're always going to be having salaries and benefits. So, that's not unexpected, that the increases in salaries. Benefits we talked about, the 458, that's the health insurance. And again, you'll see the purchase service is very small. Operating services, facilities and grounds is a negative. Operating services, we can talk about what that increase is. We have supplies. Capital is low by 303 down because we budgeted at almost 800,000 last year for capital reserve, and we're budgeting at 400,000 this year as a way to keep the increase down. Dues and fees, we did a lot of work with memberships and stuff with staff members and administrators, so we were able to reduce there. And then the debt service, again, we're going to talk about that. It seems alarming, but there's a reason. I'm going to pass it back over to our staff.
So unfortunately, this is one of the harder conversations that we have is when we talk about making changes in staffing. So we have proposed one addition, which is a full-time library media specialist. You're in the library meeting right now. Currently, we have a 0.5 that is a full person who is shared 0.5 at Strong and 0.5 at Coggins. We really strongly believe as a leadership team that having a full-time library media specialist in each place can really have a profound effect positively on instruction. So that is the one addition that we're proposing right now. In terms of reductions, we are talking about the reduction of a 0.5 PE help. That's because of numbers and programming, the number of full-time people we have and where we can allocate people across schools, not districts. Again, due to some declining enrollment, we're proposing the reduction of a grade 1 teacher. We are proposing the reduction of one FTE in music. We have 1,300 something students, and we have 7 full-time music teachers. That is high for those ratios. It has nothing to do with not wanting a strong music program. We believe that we can propose a 1.0 reduction in music and still keep the strong music program that we have. We're proposing a reduction of a full-time speech language pathologist, and that's purely based on IEP needs, student hours for needs for speech language pathology. And we have a social worker that was grant funded. The grant has run out. So that's representing a reduction of 1.0 there. And then we're also proposing the reduction from full to half-time for the administrative assistant to the athletic director. One thing that you don't see in here that we initially talked about in the budget work session, well, two things that I'll bring up. One is we talked about the reduction of a full-time high school English teacher. I don't know where the board is with that. For now, we left it in there, but that is still something that was the original proposal. So that's still something that we hope the board will discuss if you want to move forward with that or not. And then the other thing that we talked about, and I sent you some information about that we'll discuss more at the work session, is the full-time curriculum director, full-time director of teaching learning position. If the board wants to move forward with two positions there in that department or move forward with one based on where you feel the budget is falling, but that position is still in here as well. So in terms of staffing changes, this maintains the director of curriculum. We're also proposing that our ABA therapists change to 10-month positions. I also sent the board information on that. I sent you some FAQs on changing from 12 months to 10-month positions. I want to be really clear that that does not mean that we're not providing summer services, extended school year services. Those would just be contracts given over the summer to individuals based on student need. We are proposing a removal of summer school, again, not extended school year and not the kindergarten academy. So those things will stay. It's just the other summer school program that we found we were having low attendance and not a lot of kind of cost effectiveness in that program. So we removed stipends for building level initiatives. Those were some stipends that were brought in a few years ago for specific initiatives with changing to Portrait of a Learner. So we removed those. And we wanted to increase the nurse substitute pay. Two things I'll say about substitutes is that we want to increase the nurse substitute pay because we are in need of nurse substitutes and also we're competing with hospital for diem pay. So we feel we need to be some more competitive there. In addition, we didn't feel we needed to add a specific budget item for this, but I've spoken to Mrs. Newbig and I've brought to the board that I would like to create some increased sort of incentives for people to become substitutes. For example, we will propose to you at some point, if somebody comes in and subs 10 times, they get an additional bonus or something like that. But we really do need subs consistently to be available in our buildings. We're having trouble finding them. And we also proposed in here the addition of an assistant golf coach, which is a stipend position. We're proposing that because we have a lot more girls taking up golf. And we have enough to have a second team for girls. And so we want to make sure that we can have an assistant coach there available for them. In terms of salary, we started to mention there's an increase of slightly over $1 million from last year. That's all the salaries combined. It represents 100% of the salaries. We're not doing the vacancy factor anymore. That's equivalent to just not having the vacancy factor is the equivalent of a $480,000 increase in the budget. So that makes a big difference for us in terms of that increase. There are wage increases based on the new collective bargaining agreement that was negotiated with the teachers this year. This number also represents the offset of some of the proposed reductions. Again, these are proposals. The board will have to decide of which additions and reductions you want to move forward with. And this is offset by other non-FTE adjustments, which was the previous slide that I went over. These salaries represent a total of 56% of the total budget, and all of these things combined represent 2.35% of the total increase that we're looking at this year. In terms of certified and non-certified salary increase percentage, if you want to break those into those two categories, in terms of certified salary, you see it's a split of 49 to 51% and non-certified salary 28 to 72%. And the difference there is the vacancy factor and the contractual obligations and lane and personnel changes. So for those who don't know what that means, that's somebody who is getting an increase on the salary scale because it's another year or because they got a master's or, there are other ways that they're advancing on that scale. And I'm going to hand it back to Kim for benefits.
So that, like I said before, the benefits is an increase of 458,000. That represents 17% of the budget. So like I said, we're a human business, so 17 plus the 2.35. I'm sorry, 1.8 plus the 2.35 is like 4%, over 4% of the budget of the 511 increase in salaries and benefits. That is inclusive of the pension contribution that we just talked about with the auditor, that we're 97% funded. My last estimation was we were 94.1% funded. So we're actually even better than that. We're 97. And what ADEC means is it's actuarially determined employer contribution. So the actuary lets us know each year how much we should fund our pension. We're not required to do that, but in order to keep our funding ratio very high, we do meet 100% of that every year. And that was $353,000. So that's a significant number. But the board has been proud of being able to have a 97% funded pension. The health insurance is the 14% increase. That's equivalent to 455,000 of the 458 that we have there. So we're kind of stuck with this SPP, which is the state partnership plan. We belong to it. We do have an RFP out for other carriers. That means request for proposal to come in and what they could offer us for an increase. The issue we run into there is we have a very high claims history, and we've gotten many carriers saying they declined to propose for a quote. So the results are not in yet, but I know we've gotten quite a few declined to quote. So we really, hopefully the 14% will drop down. The state has indicated that's their best estimate this time. It'll be finalized in April. But the state is actually having a fund balance issue in their own insurance program. So they tax 2 to 3% on to the increase to help build up their fund balance again. So everybody's seeing, and it depends on what county you're in too. Some are a little bit higher, some are a little bit lower, but we're right in the middle. We don't have any plus or minus. We are whatever it's. I would be very surprised if it went down at all. If it did, it would only be 1%. I don't see a big drop there. So unfortunately, this is the bulk of it. When I mentioned the pension contribution, that didn't really cause much of an increase because we do it every year. So it's really only the amount that we're talking about at the increase. Also in this account is our unemployment. When we have staff members on unemployment, it's our FICA for non-certified staff members' salaries. And then we also have in the contract for our certified staff course reimbursements. So we have to, we budget for those every year so they can get reimbursed for different courses, different certifications. The next item up is purchase services. This was a nominal increase of $86,000. This represents 3.41% of the total budget and only 0.2% of the increase. I want to say a lot of this from, in supplies, repairs, all that is just very responsible budgeting. The buildings, the administrators did an amazing job with nominal increases. So, this is in credit to them. In the purchase services, we have instructional services, which is our OT, our PT, highly specialized consultation services. We have professional development and service. We have our auditor. We have legal, security, and technical support. And then we have Gatsby, which is more accounting stuff, actuarial services, and our building automation systems, our alarms, our telephones. So that all falls under purchase services. We have an increase this year, and again, like I said, it's $86,000, but that's as a result from we increased the budgeted our legal fees a little bit more than we did last year because we did have an actual increase, and then also we've incorporated funds for strategic planning. Facilities and grounds, again, very awesome budgeting, but did help that Memorial School is only budgeted the minimum, but that did actually happen for this year too. So we decreased by $6,397. That's a 0.02% of our 511 increase. We do have new items this year is we have to inspect and repair both our inside and outside bleachers. So that's an increase for this year. And then also we want to give the high school some love and give it a power wash because it needs it. So that's included in this, this increase. And this basically, it says right there what this, category is. So it's district-wide preventative maintenance contracts. So you have preventative maintenance contracts, you have them on your elevators, you have them on your boilers, you have them on everything. That's where this falls into. We have snow removal, landscaping. And I did mention that, but Memorial's only been budgeted for the necessary. So the fuel, the alarm system, we reduced landscaping and snow removal to just the necessary to be a good neighbor and also for emergency purposes. And then the insurance, we have to keep the building insured. So that's has a decrease there. I'm going to continue on for a couple more slides. Operating services is another area where we saw a bigger increase. This is one about the 1.04 that you saw earlier. That went up $442,000. And the primary driver of the increase is we have budgeted for 6 students at Middlesex Transition Academy. Those are our regional 13 students that have the plans to go into an alternative educational setting. And Middlesex Transition Academy does a phenomenal job with the students. If we didn't have that program, we'd be sending them our students out to other districts who have been running their programs and modeling them after MTA. But what we're finding is we had a lot of students that were coming into our district and the towns were paying tuition. And that was helping to offset our students that went there. So they essentially were going there. Our students were going there with no budgetary impact on the district at all. We've seen an increase in the Region 13 districts students going and a slight decrease in tuition paying students simply because other districts are creating their own programs. So we found from what actually we're seeing this year is that MTA is going to have a deficit because we still need the staffing, we need all the transportation, all that, but we're not getting the revenue that even though they're actively pursuing and marketing the building and everything, things are just so we don't get caught short. We felt it prudent that we budget for it. We may not need it. We may have enough tuition to offset it. We may not have as many students as we're anticipating for Region 13, but it's there if we need it. If we don't need it, it just stays there. It's a surplus at the end of the year and it's used to balance the upcoming year, the next year's budget. Okay, so also under operating services is our transportation. So our daily, regular, special education, just to and from school, and that's just a contractual increase every year. We have our BoE transportation, athletics and field trips, and then our propane and diesel that we pay for our buses. Our buses are propane, the diesel, we have a couple of type 2 buses that we have to put diesel in, but we have all propane type 1 fleet. Tuition is our magnet schools, our BoEs, and our outplacement, specialized services outplacement, and adult ed. We do get a grant for adult ed, and it's a pass through. It's run through, I think, Middletown, and we just pass the grant back on, and they run that. But the expenditure shows up here. The revenue of that grant shows up in the revenue. There's a little bit more operating services in here. We have leases in here. We have our technology lease, which we have every year. I mentioned we have propane buses. We year and a half ago, we moved to propane buses where we are doing a municipal lease as opposed to using buses owned by someone else. So that was a significant savings for us too. But now we categorize this under leases. We have a truck lease, and then we have an energy lease that we did 7 years ago, where we did an efficiency lease throughout the district. So that's still on the books. Also district insurance, our auto property, all that, our pollution, general umbrella, and our student accident insurance in here. And again, you'll see the MTA I mentioned there, that's why it's really pretty much gone up a significant amount because we have the need to budget for 6 students. We budget outplaced tuition at current known. So what we have right now or what we know is going to happen very soon is what we budget for. We don't know if that number could go down, that number could go up. Usually it goes up. So, you know, we don't ever budget for more than what we actually know is in the future. So Sometimes we do overspend that account. And we hope for offsets, to offset that. Dr. Levitt, any supplies?
Okay. We, again, everybody was incredibly careful and diligent in looking at what they need, for supplies, because we feel like that's a place where we can do more sharing, in the schools and be more efficient. So our supply budget is represented by a decrease of $106,972 from last year. That represents 3.22% of the total budget and negative 0.25 of that increase. So that helped a little bit. That represents just supplies in general. This doesn't represent what was cut, but just supplies in general represent the textbooks and library books that we purchase, all instructional supplies for general and special education, athletic supplies, including new basketball uniforms. For example, we have a uniform cycle that our athletic director puts forward so that we're regularly replacing uniforms. All health supplies for our nurses' offices, office supplies, technology supplies, facilities and ground supplies like custodial and other maintenance things. And also in here is natural gas, electricity, and heating. In terms of capital and equipment budgeting, we have a decrease proposed of $303,688 from last year. That represents, or capital and equipment is going to represent 2.18% of the total budget. And this decrease represents 0.071% of that overall increase. That includes capital reserve funding of $400,000, not fully funded. I believe if we just decided to fully fund it, it would be $800,000, which would be about 2%, which is what we're allowed to do. That includes equipment, custodial, and other technology, hardware, software. New this year in our proposal are 2 ovens for food classes at the high school and email monitoring software for school safety and security. We believe that that's actually probably going to be required pretty soon by our insurance company. So we're trying to get ahead of it and be proactive before we're required to get it and not prepared for it. I did want to briefly talk about the not fully funded capital reserve. One thing that we had discussed earlier and has come up at the building committee meeting are the repairs needed for the tennis courts. We are not proposing to put an additional $400,000 in there to repair the tennis courts, and I wanted to explain why, and this will be more of a discussion at the work session. But basically, if we did a $400,000 repair on the tennis courts, we'd probably have to do it again every 7 to 8 years with that level of repair. If we are able to save and bond, for example, in about 2 years when we need to bond for the roofs on the middle and the high school, if we can put the tennis courts in there, the fix would be $1 million. However, the post-tension construction would last 30 years. So if we're just looking at kind of being a little patient, not doing the shorter term 400,000, and if we wait and do the post-tension concrete asphalt fix, for the higher amount, we're going to get 30 years out of it. So that's what we're proposing the board decides to do. In terms of capital reserve, this is what makes up that $400,000 that we're proposing in there, what we want to do with those funds. Glycol replacement reserve, you can think of that as like antifreeze for your HVAC system. And we're a little bit overdue for that. So that's going to be high on the priority list. We do need a bleacher automation system for safety of pulling the bleachers in and out, which is both bleacher human safety for those pulling it in and out and those sitting on them. Athletic field reserve, we have a schedule where we put away 30,000 so that we're prepared when the fields come up for repair again. The turf reserve, another 30,000. The chiller and chiller pump reserve, 125,000. We would put it away there. The track reserve, 25,000, and unanticipated building repair and maintenance, 100,000. So that's what we have currently allocated for that. Another thing that Kim and Eric and I have worked on pretty carefully is trying to consolidate a capital improvement plan and list and prioritizing things so that we can make sure that we're always triaging, putting the things that are overdue at the top. And unfortunately, we do have things that are overdue, and seeing how we can chip away at those and take care of them. We will be getting some funds, not too much. I think it's 60 or 70,000 for the drip program. 80. Okay. 80 for a drip program at the end of this year to do some of the minor things. So that will help us take care of some of the smaller things, but this is what the proposal is for that 400,000. In terms of, are you doing that?
You just explain what DRIP.
Oh, DRIP, it's an acronym,
District
the district
repair and
repair.
permanent.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and it's state grant for districts, especially rural districts who have trouble like with this capital stuff to try and feed some money in so that we can take care of the drips.
Yes, awesome. Okay, thank you. Debt service, I spoke about this a little while ago. It looks like, oh wow, went up 613,200. And the only reason it did is because we paid for the debt service out of the bond proceeds, out of the capital reserve account last year. So it's coming back to the general fund, which we knew it would have to. And so that's why this is just our regular debt service that would have been here last year if we didn't pay for it out of the capital reserve. That accounts for the 1.44% of the 5.11. So again, it's a heavy hitter on that 511. Are all these things that are really things that we are faced with having to address. And as I said, it was previously paid out of capital reserve, and it represents the principals and interest on the 6.9 million bond. So back in 2019, the district authorized bonding for $6.9 million for various improvements around the district. Some of which were done, some of which were not. Some Brewster work was included in there. Well, we weren't going to do that when the plan for memorial renovation came up. So those are things that are in there that once we can pay it off. But those are still representing the yearly debt service. This does not include any debt service on the memorial construction project, simply because it's a one-year budget. It's an annual budget. No debt service is going to hit the general fund for this year. Any interest payments, which we are paying interest only on our bonding, which is customary during construction, is being paid for out of the come back to the general fund. But right now it's in the construction costs. Here's just a chart showing how the debt service on the 6.9 million only is going down each year and scheduled to be paid off. And I can't read my own writing there. 4142.
20.
So what year is it going to be?
2041, 42.
Yeah, it was a 20-year bond. Middlesex Transition Academy, we spoke about earlier again. Currently in this year, we have 8 students from sending districts and we have 9 RSD 13 students actively enrolled. We're budgeting for 12 sending districts next year and 13 RSD 13 students. I'd love for that to happen. I hope that does happen. But again, those are our best guess at this time. And then the total revenue is $1,027,200, and our total expenditure is $1,049,055, which is already showing a slight deficit. But again, these are budget numbers. These are best guess. They will fluctuate. And net current expenditure per pupil. This is going to look frightening as well. The 24-25 has been audited. It usually runs a little bit. I know we're already into 26, but that was audited, and we're at 29,509 per student. RSD 13 average is 28, and the state average is 24. RSDs run higher because we don't have a public works department. We have to pay for snow removal. We have to pay for landscaping. We have to pay for asphalt repairs and all that. So, we do have higher expenditures. And also we cover a lot more ground in our transportation than a local school district would. So there's a lot of reasons why regionals are higher. We are a little higher than the average simply because we have too many buildings. So you guys are on that and we're moving towards that. I'm estimating 25-26, the year we're in now, to go up just a little bit per student, but to 29,665, and then 26-27 estimated best I can 29,830. Yes, those are high numbers. So we're on the course. When Memorial is completed and open, you're not going to see it go down to 12,000. You're just not going to see it rise as fast. We're going to be more in line with the regional district averages than above them.
In addition, you tend to see a higher cost per pupil when you have declining enrollment, right? So because you've got the numerator and the denominator, and when you have declining student enrollment, you still have a lot of like basic overhead costs that you have to save. So when you have that happening, you will tend to see the higher cost per pupil. Okay, this is our final slide. This is the upcoming budget meeting schedule. So the next work session is going to be on March 11th. We also have a finance committee meeting and a final work session at 5 and 6 o'clock on March 18th. The public hearing is April 1st. The district meeting is May 4th, and the referendum is scheduled for May 5th. I want to thank you. I really do feel honored to be in Region 13. It's a well-resourced district, and I mean in the sense that we're providing a lot for kids, and there are a lot of careful decisions to be made. But I feel very proud of our staff and everybody across the board and what we can do for kids and families here. So, thank you.
I want to thank the central office staff. It truly does take a village. We're an amazing partnership. Tippy does a yeoman's job of this. Robin for her budget prep. All the administrators have input. It's very responsible budgeting. So I just want to thank all of them. And then you may have already gotten it, but I scheduled a Google Doc to go out at 7 o'clock tonight for you guys to put your questions in, just like we have in years past. It's a live document for you. I answer them as they come in. And then at the next meeting, we read them publicly with the answers so that the community can hear that as well. So it gives me time to find the answers and have the right answer.
And I've also given you a couple of other things that you've asked for in terms of information about like the ABAs, the curriculum director. The one that I still owe you is we're putting together a more comprehensive plan for the library media specialist because that was a request. At any time though, if you want other documents like that, please just let us know. Thank you.
Thank you.
And who knows what Kim and I will be matching with at the work session.
So I didn't realize you had the stripe as well. Like it's just, I know. It's pretty impressive. I get stuff that's so neat. I know, I didn't see that this one. Yeah.
Just to summarize right now, the only addition is the library media specialist to staff,
Yes.
and the reductions are as you listed.
Yes. Yeah, and just since they weren't explicitly there, I didn't know what you wanted to do about the English teacher. That was a conversation, so that's still in there, although that was still, it's still in the budget.
And it's the curriculum.
And the curriculum, and right now what's in the budget is a proposed director of teaching and learning and an associate director of teaching and learning.
So we've had discussions on those at the retreat, so
Yeah.
those will be part of our questions in the future.
Yeah, and I gave you the history. It's an interesting document. If you hadn't had a chance to look at it, the history of what the district has done since about 2017 in terms of that Department of Learning, the different iterations it's taken. So hopefully that gives you some context about, again, where we want to move forward.
So as normal, you can put your questions in the Google Doc. And then Kim will answer them right away or whatever, we get the answers. Any other questions before we move forward?
Just, Kim, the Google Doc is not, we don't have editing.
Oh, dear you. Okay.
Sorry.
By design.
Yeah, I was gonna.
Oh,
No questions?
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, just wait on, yeah, it's good. Seems to me. That's right, I wrote it, I hear, that's not this year.
The boards of finance for both towns have been privy to all this so far, or?
Not
that
yet.
come later?
The board gets it
That's-
first. We have hard copy books going to the libraries and to the town halls. As well as I can send a PDF copy to them, and everybody will be invited to the finance committee meeting on the 18th.
Yeah, so we don't have any surprises in April, May.
And I do have a question. We just voted to move money
Mhm.
out of the capital.
Mhm.
And is that already included here? So
Yes,
that's.
so if you look under
the
revenues,
5,000 is.
page,
Okay. 5,000.
well, let me look at the table of contents. Revenue, page 23.
Okay.
You'll see fund balance. There's $450,000 proposed there,
Yeah, what page are you in?
23.
Okay.
Did you see under fund balance?
Yep.
About halfway down. That
Okay.
is, we
I
moved
see it.
more than 5, but we only put 450 in there to
That's right. You said.
spend it off.
Yep. Okay.
Without that, the net budget increase would be 6.51. So it's a product down 1%.
I hope, on the 11th, we can get through the details and have any questions answered. Like to get some, more what's happening in the region too. If you say we're about the same as everybody else, that'd be good to know that as well.
At my last meeting, the range was 4 to 11, 4.75 to 11% increases, and Kim's hearing more locally from Casbo about around 5, right?
I just wrote it down. I can't find it, but yeah, it's like 5.25 is the state average. Regionals were like just shy of 5. They were like high 4s. And then I also do Durg C, which they don't really do anymore, but that was just closing at like 4.71.
Thank you. And I mean, you have the dates for the finance committee meetings.
March 18th.
Next item is my chairman report. Just want to go over, we had a training session 2 weeks ago, and we had about the aspirations for the board, and and Mary Broderick, who is there, captured all those comments on a sheet and sent them out. She also summarized basically the position, for the aspirations. And I think they're important for us to just remember to go over them. And the first 5 summaries are: district is recognized as leader for excellence in education through curriculum that challenges our students to attain their growth goals. Number 2, the district provides a safe, welcoming, caring environment for all students and ensures every student's needs are met. 3, the district administrators and teachers are recognized for their work and rewarded for excellence in joyous school environment. 4, the district provides safe and pleasant school facilities which meet the needs of all students and is designed to enhance student learning. And 5, the Board of Education is cohesive, open, and trustworthy and communicates effectively with each other, parents, and the community. Those are the aspirations that the board's members talked about on the 28th. And I think they're important for us to consider as we consider the budget and how we're going to meet some of those aspirations. I think we had a really good session, lots of comments, and there's lots of other things that were in the details that hopefully will come to pass in the future. I know some had concerns about, us becoming a model, us looking at how we relate to their towns, how we deal with student wellness, and even about food. So those are important things for us as our aspirations. I hope we keep these in mind as we in the future look towards goals and our objectives when we look for those in the future. Any comments on that meeting, on these items? No? Are you sure?
It's nice to have it all summarized.
The other thing I did, I finished a newsletter and it went out, it's online. We did send a postcard out to families to they could see it at the tunnel or community center or library. I've only gotten one comment that they read it, and so if you do have anybody does have a comment, at least read it, so I know that it's worth doing. So be happy to hear. I did summarize a lot of the activities from the fall. And we also, I noticed the printed copy did not put the pictures of the Memorial School project in it for some reason. I know Meg was pretty upset with the printer for that, but online version does have all the pictures of Memorial School. So if anybody has read it, I would be happy to hear that you've read it and have interest in it. And it's worth continuing to do. Because it takes a lot of effort from a lot of people to gather all that data. So I really hope that if people would take a look at it. Has anybody in the audience read it?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. I knew you would. Thanks a lot. The next on the agenda is the update on Memorial Project.
Okay, for this, I'm gonna bring in Angela Cahill, from STV, our owner's project manager. And Angela, if you just give me 1 sec, I will be able to pull up and share your document with everybody who is online.
A&M was actually thinking that Andrea and Kermit might get back to us this week. So that would be great. I believe O&G is ready to hit the streets with this huge package. Any questions or comments on where we are with phase 3? Really just waiting for the state letter.
And as soon as we get the letter, O&G will go out to bid.
Yes, correct. Yep.
And
like I said, go ahead.
Trying to get it out next week. But that would still be possible if we get the approval this week.
Yeah, I mean, we wanted the approval last week. That was really our goal. But we're close. We're close to the schedule that we were hoping for. And that's going to be a lot of trade packages. So,
and about 30 days for we see the bids.
Yeah, at least, I believe O&G, I don't have the exact dates. I believe they're going to start with 30 days, and then depending on if there's a lot of questions at the walkthrough or addenda, they might issue an extension. But typically you'll start with a benchmark of 30 days. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And then beyond that, the architect will start working on, excuse me, the FF&E phases, which include furniture, fixtures, equipment, and playgrounds. And those will follow similar pattern. We need programming meetings in order to select the equipment, design the areas, then go through, client approval, building committee approval, board of ed approval, go to the state for PCR meetings, and so forth. Ideally, that wants to happen in the early fall, in terms of really buttoning up those documents and going to the state for review. We don't want to do it too soon. We don't want to do it too late. So that's our goal. I believe Carson was saying around September, October to come back to you guys with approvals. But in the meantime, they'll start working on the design. There's different procurement methods we're talking to Kim about as well. And O&G isn't as involved in the furniture, but they will be, I believe, with the playgrounds. But these are items that you can use a state contract list to purchase, so you save on the bidding time. But all of that will be discussed and ironed out over the next few months while the design starts. Questions on phase 4?
I think Carson said he would get the staff involved in some of that furniture and fixture work this summer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We met about that at our leadership team today, and we're going to have a schedule of meetings for all the different staff members who would be at the new memorial to give input on furniture, fixtures, equipment, teacher desks, student get desks, all those kind of things. And then right now, after we go through that first phase this year, like April or May, the plan would be to have some model classrooms set up in August when we come back so that people can actually see it, walk around, see what like several different options might look like for the classrooms and then go from there.
Yep.
Okay.
Great. So, in general, we've been pushing ONG to, work towards the schedule that the town, the district requires. I think there'll be some further, more detailed discussion on the schedule, in the coming weeks. So that's an ongoing topic. And then budget, we're still, over budget, but in much better shape than we were, for what we were holding before the phase two bids came in. So we're around 300,000 over budget at the moment. And, again, trying to be optimistic about how those bids will come in for phase three. And, I didn't really see any significant changes. Um, at least in the phase two bids, there wasn't any, big alternates to talk about or anything like that. So, in phase three, there will be some alternates to talk about that'll affect the budget that, may show some changes to the design.
The fact that the estimate is over budget doesn't mean that we're gonna go over budget. It just means we have a fixed budget, so it means that some things have to be cut or removed or changed in order to meet that budget.
Right, and that's the alternates sort of serve that purpose. They're really a cushion to see, it gives value to things that maybe aren't they're valuable to have, but they're not required. So, we have, uh, been working very diligently on that alternate list that stemmed out of our value engineering exercise. And, that's why I believe the committee was comfortable going to bid being over budget because we have that cushioning process in place.
Also, online, we have a kind of a fly around.
The flyover.
Of the renderings of the school.
Oh, yes, yes. QA&M gave an update, new images, I believe a couple of weeks ago at one of the building committee meetings. Did you want to show those? Did you say you had them up now?
We sent them out and we sent them out in the newsletter a variety of ways.
Oh,
So hopefully
great.
people have taken a look. Yeah.
Okay, good.
We really updated the website. There's a whole website dedicated to Memorial School and all of these updates go on there. The flyover is on there. So it's looking really good right now.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, they do a great job with the rendering. And, I will say the ONG team has just been spectacular as well. The estimators, your main purchasing agent, Laurel Purcell, is extremely professional and knowledgeable. The leadership from Dave. You just really have a fantastic team when it comes to the architect and the construction manager.
Any other questions for Anthony?
Yeah, Angela, Jamie Rohrbeck from the board. One thing that's been happening, and I don't know if your professional experience with municipal projects are such that we have a firehouse project or emergency management center happening in Middlefield that's moving along quite quickly. We have a metal framing up and everything. And we do get a lot of people traveling through town thinking, what's going on? The money was allocated towards this project. How come we don't see anything? Can you give me a good coherent response of how I can talk to them? That's obviously a much bigger project, but what would be the difference between a firehouse project versus a school? Why does it take longer? Obviously, there's reasons, but if we can just lay them out, we have a lot of people online and a lot of people here at this meeting that might be concerned.
Well, the main reason is where the funding's coming from. So, the state of Connecticut has a very comprehensive process in place to protect the funds that they're contributing to this project. And their process entails, very detailed review, of the design, of the cost estimates. There's a lot of documentation that goes, together with that. I think combined with the fact that this is a very large project, which when you get involved with large projects, it sort of exponentially increases schedules because really have that much more work to do in terms of design. And as I said, value engineering, really trying to keep it on budget, on track. I cut my teeth with firehouses. Those were the first projects I worked on 30 years ago. And I will say, I love them so much. And I love them because you were really dealing kind of with a single entity. You were dealing with the fire department. The fire department knows what they want. They're very clear. They ask for certain things. They don't change their mind. It's a very simple process. And they'll look at precedents and you put the documents together. You're responding really just to the town and the department, not to, massive state agencies. So it does move very rapidly compared to a school project where, not only are you dealing with the grant agency that's helping to fund the project, but you're dealing with a lot of other state agencies too, DEP and the Traffic Commission and the Education Department. You're dealing with multiple local officials that, they have their jobs on the line in terms of reviewing and need to engage independent cost reviewers or code reviewers as well. It's just exponentially more complicated, I would say.
Thank you.
Jamie, I could be wrong, because I'm not intimately involved in the Middlefield happenings. But I thought a big piece of it was that with the Middlefield Fire Department project, they had all the renderings, like all the design plans all done. We did not.
There was a lot of work.
Yeah, I think like all that was done. So really, once it was approved, you can get going, as opposed to us. We have to get the approval first, then go through like the whole design process, which is obviously like very lengthy. And I think that's likely also contributes to like a huge discount.
The fire department project is also approximately $8 million project versus the
76.
school, which is 60 some odd,
76.
okay, $76 million. So you're talking, I've seen them for the school, put together site plans, which look like site plans that are like, this thick. So, that's a lot of drawings that have to be put together. It's a lot.
Yeah, exactly. A project of the size of your school project, you're going to have, 500 sheets in the drawing set, multiple manuals. And, the other thing is with the funding, it's a chicken and the egg thing. You couldn't proceed with full designs and documentation until you know whether you're getting the funding or not. And I know this group, as well as the building committee, knows very well that it's quite a sequence of events in order to determine whether you're getting the funding. You need to do certain documentation at risk and then apply for the funding. Sometimes you have the legislative support to get you a different schedule, but even so, it takes the state a long time to tell you whether you're getting the funding or not. And what are you doing in the meantime? You don't want to do too much in the meantime because you don't have the funding yet, right? So you sort of wait until you're comfortable knowing how much funding you're going to get, and then you release the architect to do all those plans once you're comfortable with that. And each district is different as to how they proceed and when they proceed with the documents.
Yeah. I do know that the construction trailer's been put on site and some fencing has started, and so a lot of the stuff will be closed down. Sorry, I forgot to turn that off. I think that was mine.
Yeah.
All right, anything else? Thank you, Angela.
Thank you all. See you soon.
See you on the 4th. Which is next week.
It is.
All right.
Favorite time of year.
Maybe at least no. Next item 11 is board communication and professional development. We have several letters on snow policies that we'll deal with shortly. Came to light this morning. I have 2 letters. I think there might be one more. We have 3 letters and communication on graduation policy, which we discussed tonight at student achievement, which will brought it back to the policy committee for a review. We had one letter on the budget concerning an English teacher, which right now is still in the budget. We had a letter, obviously, from Brendan Ray on the ethics, which we'll have up in the next couple of minutes. I have had, we have Read Across America. There's 3 or 4 board members who have agreed to participate in classes March 2nd. So thank you for doing that. I've had several students raise concern to me that the prom, which is scheduled, and I don't know the date, but the shoreline track meet was scheduled for the same date during the day, and they were quite concerned that last year they had it the day after the prom, and this year they have it the day of the prom, and the track kids were concerned that they were asking to see if we could adjust that schedule. So I don't know, we haven't quite done that yet, but we're taking a look at that. So that was what I have. Anybody else have other communications? We've had several letters on the upcoming item on the agenda on item D, 12D. Anybody else have anything else?
From my own communication, I had the privilege of attending the National Oceanographic Sciences Bowl in Avery Point campus for UConn, but it's basically been going on for a long while. It's no longer sponsored by Coggin-Chog, but there are 3 Coggin-Chog students who valiantly competed against students from Rhode Island, New York, and Connecticut. And it's very serious. It's an amazing competition where they truly learn from each other. They collaborate. I mean, it's just a very high level for their age group. So they did quite well, didn't quite make it as good. But I'd really like to acknowledge Lori Martin, who's been an outdoor education staple in our district. She was my teacher way back in '76, and she continues to help our students. It's incredible. But it's continuing to move on. And by the way, their team name is called the Cephalopods, the squids, or octopus, I guess. So they have that, yeah.
Calamari.
It was awesome. Really, really great thing to see. And hopefully it continues on.
Thank you, Art. Any other comments, questions? That next item is new business number 12. Does anybody need a short break for 5 minutes?
Yes, already took it.
Oh, wait. All right, if not, the first is the vote to approve the strong field trip to Camp Jewel.
This is the same annual trip for Camp Jewel. There's really nothing any different, so it comes to the board every year for approval.
It's
It's a
for
great trip.
8th grade in the fall.
So scary that
Huh?
so scary. I'll have 8th graders on that trip.
But it's a great trip.
I know, just scary.
I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
Any comments? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Next is a vote to approve Merwin funds. The Charles B. Merwin Fund was created about 100 years ago by a guy named Charles B. Merwin. And he has put together a fund that 3 trustees review proposals from the school and either annually or several times a year will make grants based on those requests from various teachers. This year, this time we need to accept a grant of $500 to grade 5 Cognitive Regional High School Echo Outreach. This is proposed by science teacher Rachel Mann, and the Burns Trust has provided, the grant fund has provided $500 for that project. The second is to Maura Bragi. Is that how you say your last name?
Brody.
Huh?
I think it's Brody.
Brody. Thank you. For $1,000 for her proposal to support on-site visitors to enhance grade 6 curriculum. And the proposal really involves inviting outside lecturers to come and speak on a variety of subjects, including literature and science. And the final one is to Ryan Doniker for $7,345.91, which was his figure, for his proposal for the Coggins Print Company, a student-run custom apparel business, to purchase a DTF Station Prestige A4 shaker and oven bundle advanced.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
It's and basically they make apparel for students. And they can make all kinds of things. They made aprons for this fun cooking.
They made all of your Restore the Core t-shirts.
Yeah.
And
So
maybe
this
some
is,
school uniforms, and then we can take that out of the budget.
Yeah.
so that this is a student-run organization and fun and a small business. So I hope that we accept those grants. We already have the checks. So I'll be wise to accept those grants.
We already have the check.
We do.
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
Any comments? If not, all in favor, you say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, I get to do something. I'm very excited. Since I've been on the board, we've been talking about bringing in community members and students to sit on some of our committees. So very excited to say that we have a student who is interested in being a non-voting member on the Student Achievement Committee. And so I am asking if someone will make a motion to approve Will Overton as a student member of the Student Achievement Committee. So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes. Oh, sorry. Any opposed?
No,
All right.
Abstain.
Any abstentions?
I abstain.
All right.
Okay.
Congratulations, Will. He's sick, otherwise he'd be here tonight.
Next is item D, discussion and possible vote regarding Durham Board of Selectmen letter. I think you've all received the letter from Brendan and various other letters related to it. We would like first to have a small discussion. We looked at options. One was a reconsideration and under our love, but that doesn't appear like a feasible approach. It has to be done within the same meeting.
Yeah, so I can go through the difference. So if you wanted to reconsider a vote, it has to take place in the same session. So like to reconsider a vote, you would actually have to do it in the same board meeting session. If the board wants to move forward with rescinding the vote, that is what would be on the table. But because it's very rare and not encouraged for boards to rescind votes, and because of that, there's a higher bar that you have to reach. So one of three things has to be met. And just to explain the reason for that in the law, I did bring the law book with me if anybody wants to look at it. But one of the reasons for that is because they don't want boards to try and change votes just because of who shows up at that meeting. They don't want any manipulation, et cetera, et cetera. When board makes a vote and moves forward, that is intended to stand. It would be dangerous if boards were just constantly rescinding votes, and that doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means that legally you have to reach a different threshold than a regular vote. So one of three things has to happen if you want to rescind the vote. One is you would put it on the March 11th meeting, which and on the agenda, and you actually state the motion that you would be voting on to rescind the vote on the agenda, so that it's completely transparent for the community. The second thing that would happen that could happen is because it's a higher bar, you would need to have a 2/3 majority for it to pass. So instead of just a straight majority like you would in most votes, you need a 2/3 majority of the board members present. Or the third option is that you would need an absolute majority, which for this board as a board for 10 is 6. So you would need to have at least, no matter what the quorum is, the third option is that you would have to have members vote in favor of rescinding. That's the, that's the legal, those are the legal avenues, that are available to you. There are, I will recommend, and I do think that this is, I realize that this is a really hot issue. And I realize that we've received a lot of communication on it. My job is to make sure that the board does this with as much information and legal advice as possible. And since we have a meeting coming up in about 2 weeks, my advice would be that if you want to put this on the agenda, that you put it on the agenda for that meeting, that you write out the motion, exactly what the motion would be, so that it's transparent, and that we actually have legal counsel come in to make sure that all of the pros and cons, all of the repercussions for rescinding a vote are considered so that everybody's making an informed vote. That's my advice in terms of just making sure that this isn't, rushed right away. This is the first time the board's actually discussing the letter. It's also my advice because there are 2 board members here who were not on the board when the original decisions were made, and having the time to get them up to speed and have them be able to work with legal counsel and learn all of the back information about it would help those 2 members and the board as a whole, I think, make an informed vote. And then once you vote, it's up to you. My job is to make sure that you do this in the most legal way possible, the legal way forward.
I think from the comments we got, both from Rhonda and from Amanda, there's a number of questions that the new members have not been privy to because of not being in executive session where these things were discussed. So I think it's important, if you want to concern yourself with all that information, that we do it right, directly and prospectively, so all the new board members have the information that was considered at the last time.
Another thing that I wanted to explain, which you received, is I want the community to understand that rescinding the vote doesn't change the indemnification. It doesn't change the fact that that board member or any board member would be indemnified, because that is legally a right that board members are entitled to. So you can rescind the vote. That is an option available to you. However, it does not change the indemnification. It doesn't change the insurance policy coverage. It actually doesn't really change anything that is already happening. So I think it's important for everybody to be aware of that as well. We did receive a letter from the insurance company attorneys to confirm that even if the board decides to rescind this vote, they will still be providing coverage, because based on their review of the case, they determined to provide that coverage.
Until it settles though, then they review. I just want to make sure that's clear as well, that at least in my experience with indemnification policy coverage, that, well, really in any lawsuit, that right. Once it kind of comes to the end and settle, underwriters do another review and they ultimately just decide at that point that it's a permanent coverage or not.
Yeah. Well, that's where the board has had a lot of discussions, and so so is the community about, if that board member was found to have acted with malice.
Yeah.
Then they would not provide coverage, and then the costs defer to that individual.
Yes. Yeah. No, I just want to make sure that piece is clear.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So
you had another question, Sam? Anything else?
So if we put this on the agenda for March 11th with the exact verbiage there, and then have that discussion, I just want to be clear though, is that another discussion in executive session, or is that a public discussion? Because I do think that's another piece of what was discussed during that ethics, during those various different ethics meetings, of that there wasn't like a public discussion, and maybe it's a combination of both.
That's what I would recommend. So I do believe I would propose an executive session so that you can get legal advice directly from your attorney, but then also a public discussion. And, as much as can be discussed in public should be. I agree. But I do believe that legal advice piece is still important, especially since once again, not all board members were here in the beginning, and everybody would be acting on the same information.
I actually don't feel like I need legal counsel to rescind a vote that I didn't agree with to begin with. So I'm fine with rescinding it tonight and not needing legal counsel. I know that several of us even asked and still haven't gotten a full answer as to why we even had a vote that night. So if you're saying that the vote really doesn't do anything, whether we rescind it, whether we actually voted yes or no, why did we even have a vote? So that alone to me means that we should just rescind it to acknowledge the fact that we as a board shouldn't even have voted to begin with. We don't need legal counsel for that. And I really do believe that hearing is making me really uncomfortable to provide the two new members some information before we possibly rescind is making me really uncomfortable, because without getting into further detail as far as what transpired during executive session, if it's going to require giving information or one-sided information, then I don't see the point.
If we went into executive session, it would be for your lawyer to advise you on the legal, the whole legal landscape of what would go into rescinding the vote. That would be the purpose.
But we already said it has no, there's no point to it.
There is a big point to rescind a vote of a board. And I think that's one of the most important things to change actions that people voted on in the past. Is a big deal, and we should be aware of the cost, the consequences of doing such a thing.
And I'm aware of that. I mean, I've been on the board for 7 years now, and we've never had to rescind a vote.
Once.
Yes.
Okay.
No, but that's actually where I was going with
Okay,
it. I'll
go ahead, take over that.
Only because we have done it once and it was the Lyman vote. I don't know how you could ever forget.
I was mentally blocking it out.
Yes, it was, yes, it was
Okay.
a
So it
horrible,
doesn't happen
horrible
all
thing
the
that
time.
happened and
And it was extremely complicated on me to get
It
that
was.
to happen.
And so we did have to then rescind that vote. So, but to your point, more like, because we have done it once before, it can be done.
Yes.
It has been done. We, maybe behind the scenes there was legal work, but we didn't have an
Substantial.
attorney present during having that.
Well, it
rescinded
didn't
vote.
involve any individual person.
Mm.
It's a different.
Right.
There are big differences. First of all, the rescinded vote came the very next meeting after the vote. Every single person on the board was already there for the original vote. It did have an effect. It did have a change, and there was no legal anything attached to it. No legal process,
claims.
out there against it or for it. And besides, I forgot what I was gonna say. So, there were very big differences, and this is completely different. There's a lot of legal pieces that are attached to this. We don't know if some of these legal pieces are going to change the ruling of the ethics committee. And what are we doing? We're voting on something that we don't even know if that's what it is.
Rescinding acknowledges
doesn't make any
to the
sense.
public that we should not have voted during that meeting. We should not have been, we as board members should have not been put in that position to be behind closed doors and be there for 2 hours of testimony and have to vote. That's what it acknowledges. And I do believe that the community deserves that.
We were advised.
I believe that board members who were part of that meeting deserve that.
we were
I think
advised by-
separating, because in retrospect, looking back, 100%, we never, in my opinion, we never should have made that vote. So when I separate out everything else about that is just that we never should have had that vote. And I quite frankly don't care how we got to there. To me, the fact that we ended up voting on something that it was performative at best. That I tentatively agree with Maura, not as vociferously, but, you know, the vote shouldn't have happened. And I don't know what my point is. I'm just going with that. And to me, if we end up voting to rescind, I want to be clear that from my point of view, it's not based on anything that happened in the executive session, anything that happened before, after, whatever. It's just frankly that vote, we shouldn't have been involved in that vote.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like the point is like, from my perspective, especially being a Durham elected Board of Ed member, and this is coming from the Durham, you know, Ethics Commission, the Durham Board of Selectmen, that I feel like I have a responsibility, one, to answer, you know, to that letter and their finding. And if at the end of the day, the vote itself was ruled unethical, okay? And it also.
Not the vote itself.
sorry.
I do have to clarify that because it's important to me that people don't think the district should have an illegal vote, right? That's not what happened. Their ruling was that they felt that her participation in the vote was.
Yes,
unethical.
yes. So therefore, you know, it shouldn't have happened in the way it happened. Either way, I still stand by my original vote, and that at kind of circling back to the initial point of, I have said since the very beginning, why do we need to vote? I have never gotten a very clear answer.
Maybe today, like, why did we vote?
I can answer that the same way I voted or testified at the Ethics Commission. And again, I will also say that this was my first or second week of work, right? But what I testified to at the Ethics Commission was that, one, there was a lot of misinformation going around after the lawsuit was filed. There was a lot of social media. There was a lot of literally misinformation that was coming to and from the board at that point. Since it was privileged information that had to do with employees and children, executive session was called to get legal advice on how to move forward. The attorney did advise that a vote would help in terms of letting the public know that the people who were in the know in the executive session that knew the information supported the indemnification. So did the vote actually have a bearing on the insurance company coverage?
But what information did we know as board members?
I'm not allowed to talk.
No,
about
I'm just,
that.
you know, and I know,
Session.
and I'm just thinking back because it's interesting you say that, because to me, there was only a little snippet of information that we were given through that 2-hour meeting. I mean, I'm talking as a board member, I would have liked to have known, and I think the new members would have to really be filled in. But having gone into that executive session, instead of just being bombarded with what we were bombarded with, I would have liked to have known more information. I would have liked to have known what has been brought up in the FOIA. I didn't know any of that. I didn't know any communication with the insurance company before. As a board member, I went in there blinded and told that we need to make a vote.
Yeah, I think Maury has to remember the situation is that on the 2 weeks before, we had a meeting with a lot of people here talking about a lawsuit that we had not seen yet, that we had, and it was in a lot of newspaper and it was in a lot of social media. And so part of that meeting was to explain what the lawsuit was about. And I had not seen it. None of you have seen it. You may have seen it, but I hadn't seen it. And other board members hadn't seen it. So part of that was to discuss what the suit was and why. And so I think it's important for Mark and Nick to have that same knowledge, so that not acting on just social media and concern. I think that a vote to rescind, that we can write a motion to vote to rescind tonight and have a vote on it, and we can upgrade Mark and Nick on what the legal issues that were brought forward in the executive session with a very short time frame.
So I think as a new member who wasn't here for the vote, I think the motion to rescind is appropriate. And I can appreciate the going to executive session to understand the process to rescind a vote in principle as a function of a board, not specifically related to this vote, because I think it's pretty clear from the communication that we've gotten that vote had no bearing on anything. It didn't influence whether or not the insurance company will indemnify. Our rescinding the vote has no influence on their decision to indemnify. And I think, Sydney, you just made a comment that the vote was to support indemnification. And I'm not clear, was the vote to support the idea of indemnification as a show of support for a board member? Or was it saying, yes, the board member will be indemnified?
Well, it doesn't, like legally, it doesn't matter if the board votes to say the person will be indemnified, because by a matter of law, the board member is covered under indemnification, right? That's like any public official or employee,
Right, but I'm saying like.
The motion that was issued was basically under the section of the law that this person was indemnified. And I think that's important for
Like, it
all of
wasn't just stating a fact that.
Yes.
I mean, I
And
feel
so I
like
think
that's kind of like,
But it's based on a lawsuit. And I think if any one of us was sued, or we would like to know that the board, that as public officials, we are protected.
well, we
Otherwise,
already know that.
Yeah, but and I think
Like, I don't
that's
need-
the point.
And I wouldn't want the board to vote if I was subject of a lawsuit. I don't think I would want the board to vote without knowing all the facts. Just because I already know that I would be indemnified, right? Like, I already know that exists. And the
well,
vote,
that was the purpose of the executive session, to get some facts.
I'm gonna
Right.
throw out there again, the idea of separating the idea of rescinding the vote versus revoting. To me,
I don't think we can revote under this thing. We can rescind.
One of them to vote.
what I was gonna say is, and I could be wrong, and the new members and, y'all decide, but I don't know that they need to hear the legal counsel to rescind. Because the rescission,
rescission.
thank you. English teacher, no, I talk French. Rescission, is because we didn't need, because it was a performative vote. It didn't do anything for real. So if that's what rescinding the vote does, I don't know that you need to hear all the things that I went into that meeting and I zone out often. I got ADHD. I got all kinds of things going on. So somebody correct me if you were aware. I was under the impression that the vote was a fait accompli, right? That it was something, we were voting on something. And that the conversation in executive session was to give us the information to inform our vote. Never thought that there was an option whether we could vote or not. So to me, if we want to rescind the vote, I don't know that we need the legal counsel, because the legal counsel was specifically about to give us information as to how we were going to vote. I hope that made sense.
Yep, absolutely.
I still think it's important for us to put the vote on an agenda and vote.
I think put it on the agenda. I don't think we need to say what the language is now, because that all
Right.
probably should go through legal and make sure that it's exactly the way it should be worded, should be on the next agenda for 2 weeks from now. But I don't think it needs to be a whole thing. Like, the point being is, it has no bearing. We have this complaint. We should abide by it, especially the Durham Board of Ed members, more than anything else, since this is coming from Durham. So I think we have an obligation, and not only to them, but also to our taxpayers and to everyone that says, like, get it done, do the right thing. To me, it's in ways very similar to what happened last time of like, we messed up, let's do the right thing. Let's recognize that and
Let's
not
just move
revote
on.
and move
Let's
forward.
do the right thing and let's move on and
Exactly.
get past it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nothing sounds better to me than moving on.
Yeah, I just want
Absolutely, because like
to,
I really want to run the district. I want to talk about the budget. I want to talk about the things that we want to talking about. So however this moves forward and however you as a board decide to move forward, let's just do it.
Go ahead, Nick.
yeah, I was just going to say, Sydney, I know you said it at the top of the topic. But the reason that we wouldn't take a vote tonight is that it basically requires everyone in attendance to agree as
It
opposed
doesn't,
to
no.
putting
You
it
just need,
on.
you would need a 2/3 majority or the absolute majority, which on a board of 10 would be 6. So,
As
the
opposed
difference
to,
is just, the difference is just that since you have a higher bar with rescinding a vote, because it's discouraged, that's why instead of a simple majority, you need the 2/3 or the absolute.
Is that a
Right.
vote to vote or is that the vote?
That's the vote.
Yeah, that's
Well-
the actual.
so I lost my page.
If I'm
but-
hearing right, okay, I'm sorry, Nick.
So I just want a clarification because if it's on the agenda, then it just needs a simple majority, as we talked about earlier before the meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So that's the main reason why we want it on the agenda.
And if I'm hearing right, everybody looks like they want to have us write up the motion to rescind and put it on the March 11th meeting. And we'll do it early in the meeting, so it'll be over.
First of all, the motion would be to put it on,
No.
put it.
No,
It would be to have a vote to rescind the vote from July, whatever that date was.
We don't vote to put things on an agenda.
no, it will be, we will put it on the agenda and vote to rescind the vote of such and such date. July,
For,
huh?
for when?
On March
For March
11th.
11th. This in 2 weeks. And we'll do it, although that's a budget work session, it's a regular board meeting, we put it on as the first item to get this done.
I personally have a hard time with this because it just makes me think that at any given time, with enough pressure from whatever group might give us pressure, that we'd have to turn around and relook at other votes that we've made. I mean, we voted to hire Sydney.
That's why there's an extraordinary requirement in there.
People came along and said they don't want us to have her put all this pressure on us. I mean.
That might have happened
I
after
don't
the
think
snow
it's
day.
the right thing to do.
You know what, though? I don't know. Think about it this way. There is pushback on things that we do all the time. ELA teacher, from that one budget work session, we got feedback from a few people. We all kind of knew, you hear all this feedback all the time. We listen to our constituents, okay? And so now in this extraordinary circumstance where you had an ethics investigation, which was led by an independent group of people who I actually went to a lot of them. I was thoroughly impressed with how completely unbiased they were. I sat through most of them. And then now we have this board of selectmen. This is definitely what I would say qualifies to what you described as an extraordinary, oh my God, I can't talk. Sorry, hit my head today. Literally hit my head today, yes. Situation. So it's not that it's coming from a group of people and feedback. It's coming from an ethics complaint. So I think that's the right thing to do.
Board of Selectmen who in effect represent the whole town of Durham.
Yes.
So you could say that the town of Durham is speaking to us.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'd also say that, I have said this, I resent the committees, the ethics committee implying that a board member's presence at any of those meetings influenced my vote. Similarly, I resent the implication that, no, dude, we've made some decisions that were not popular and we stuck by it. So the idea of we're doing this just because some people are pressuring us, I don't think that's accurate either, right? I mean, there are, as I said, in my opinion, the vote never should have happened. That's what I am leaning into, whether people think that or not. I don't care about the pressure. We've withstood that for a number of things. And I just think that to me, it's a matter of doing the next right thing and putting it to bed.
I'd like to reiterate what Dr. Leggett just said. We need to move forward. Let's do what we need to do to move forward, because my greatest fear is it's going to affect the spirit of volunteerism in Durham and Middlefield. People assume we're making money doing this. People assume it's a quick little job. It's not. And we need to protect volunteers to not feel like you're going to lose your livelihood and your home. Having been somebody who grew up with a lawsuit growing up, affecting my life when I was a young child, not good, not at all good. Not defending. There was plenty of bad behavior to go around everywhere. I'm convinced of that. Let's move forward.
So if you have it on the agenda for the next meeting, we'll write out the actual motion, which will satisfy that legal requirement. Do you want the legal counsel here? Do you want that or not?
I'll defer to the new members if they feel it's necessary. For me personally, I'd say no.
I think as long as we run the motion through legal counsel and they give it the all clear, maybe we put a general training of board operations at some point, I think might be helpful.
I think the whole issue has cost way enough in legal fees that I would say no. I'd like to see the legal fees go down for this one situation, one person, one.
Yeah.
So I don't see a need for it.
Nick, what do you think?
Yeah, I feel similarly that if legal counsel reviews the motion and doesn't think, we're opening ourselves up to some liability that would further incur fees that their attendance would solve. I think that's the only scenario where I think an executive session is necessary.
We'll discuss that with the attorney and make that available to him as well.
And the vote to rescind will be public.
Yes. Yeah. All votes are public.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll move on.
Can I say one more
Yeah.
thing about the letter?
Yeah.
Just because in the letter, they brought up the whole abstaining and the et cetera. So I
Okay.
do want to bring forward that policy to the policy committee, just so that I can state that publicly, is that interpretation of abstaining, and if it changes the vote, I do think that the policy committee should revisit that to clean up that language so that we don't have any kind of confusion like that in the future.
Let's do that for next one.
Okay.
I think that we all understand that if you abstain, it doesn't mean you wanted to go with anybody. You wanted to not vote. I don't know why that language is in there, and it's bizarre.
Yeah, let's fix that.
All right, next, Christine, you want to go over the first read and the policies?
Yeah, so these were 3 policies that were brought forward at the January 21st meeting, all by Mrs. Lucier. We basically had some discussion about them. One thing that I actually did highlight for myself that I found very helpful is that just to keep in mind that these policies are meant for libraries, not for curriculum, because I remember there being like some confusion there. But basically, we could have had one policy, but we opted for these 3 that came from CABE. They're more easily regulated that way. I think basically, I know Mrs. Lucier has put a lot of time and dedication into these. So she was very proud to bring them forward. So we thank her for her time and commitment.
And she was also part of writing the law.
Yes,
You did an amazing amount of work to bring these forward.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is the first read.
Anybody have any issues with the first read? If not, we'll move on to the second read.
Do you want to do those, Christine, or do you want me to?
Oh, sorry. I didn't know I had to say something again about the second read one.
So
Sorry.
these were brought up last time.
Yeah, so fundraising, we made those changes to help with the platform crowdfunding, thank you. Platform, so that should be.
There's very little change in the policies, mostly in the regulations.
Yeah. So I think, that seemed to fit everybody from the feedback we got at, the various different kind of meetings that were held with that. So I don't remember student wellness.
So the student wellness one is really a kind of a simple change is that according to regulations, we used to say that if somebody, couldn't afford, they would get a sandwich or something like that. The only change in this is that we give the student the same meal as everybody else. So it helps with lack of stigma, it helps with equity and everything. That's the only change proposed in this one.
Any questions of a vote to approve those two policies? Fundraising 5325 and student wellness 5135. A motion to approve.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Any comments, further comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you. Next committee reports. Christine, you're on again.
I kind of just said it.
Yeah, you did.
Policy, like with the library policies, it was literally just those three. So, yeah, I know. I can understand.
Thank you.
Best
You also-
update ever.
I want to add something to the library policy is that once they go to the second reading and adoption, I would love to set up a mock book challenge.
Okay.
Because has a lot to do with those
Yeah.
policies. So I may pull on some board members to make sure that we can do like a simulation so that we can actually see what it would be like to live with those policies.
It would be interesting to do that for sure. Next is building committee. I know Mark, you want to talk about it or Christine or?
I was not.
Hold on, I could go to my notes. If you want.
The joint committee, we went over the approval for going to bid on phase 2 work. That was.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
And it was basically, that's what we did.
Yeah, and there was a few approvals of invoices.
We got approvals and we approved some invoices, but we got approval from the state and we authorized them to go out to bid. And this, I'll skip over it so you can go back and have a full show. The building committee on February 4th, we accepted, we accepted the bids that day. No.
The presentation of the drawings.
Oh, yeah, that's when we got presentation of all the documents in the final design. Period. And then meeting on February 18th, we approved the contractor for phase 2.
Yep.
So everybody,
There was three
huh?
bids we approved, I think. Two.
We approved the contract,
Two, yeah.
2 bids for the phase 2 and for the electrical equipment. And that was what Angela talked about tonight. Okay, school naming committee, 2 meetings.
Well, naming. So I'm just gonna combine, is it okay if I just combine both?
Yes,
I
please.
100% sure.
I told you to say it today, so.
And also just full disclaimer, I'm running out after this because I gotta pick up a kid from basketball practice. So Jamie and I are co-chairing. We have 2 representatives from Durham, 2 from Middlefield, and then we have each school have representation on the committee. So we basically have gone through the survey results and gotten community feedback, and we have identified 3 names for the potential, for the new school. Those 3 names are Veterans Memorial Elementary School, and that's to pay homage of the current name. There was feedback given to not call it just Memorial School because there is another Memorial Elementary School that evidently has already caused some confusion when people go.
Sometimes buses for the other memorials show up at our memorial.
Yeah, nice. So and because it was originally named for veterans, that's kind of why we put that word in there. The second choice will be 3 Oaks Elementary School, which was a survey suggestion actually, and that was to pay homage to bringing 3 schools, 3 towns together now under one roof, building, new roots, oak tree, everything.
Again, I'd like to reiterate, Rockfall is a little borough of Middlefield, not necessarily too.
Well, people are gonna come for you,
Yeah,
Jamie.
there too.
I think they're gonna come for you. I don't know,
I love Rockfall.
Mhm.
Well, there you go. Watch out for Linda.
That's right.
Yeah. And then the third choice is gonna be, Wadsworth Falls Elementary School, which I did get clearance from Deep. So I found the guy there. And so basically the goal is we're gonna meet, next week again, just to finalize some things, but we're hoping that this is gonna go out to vote the week of March 16th. Each town, will have a ballot box. I just want to be clear, this isn't going to be run by registered voters, but it will
No
be,
cost to this.
yes. There will be a box in each town hall with ballots that you can get from the town clerk to cast your vote. We'll leave them out for like a week so that it hopefully gives all of our community members, an opportunity to vote for what they feel is the best name. But we are also going to enable every student and every staff member to cast a vote that week as well. Some are going to be doing it on a Google form. Some are obviously going to be doing it, just go into each class and raise your hand and vote. But the goal right now is to get that done. And then afterwards, we'll move on to mascot.
We also,
They're very excited.
yeah, we also did, I think that was his suggestion, we're naming.
Yeah, that has come up of, Lucy had a good suggestion of, potentially naming like the cafeteria, like the Brewster cafeteria, just to, kind of pay homage to the previous schools, maybe
Yeah.
the Lyman Library or something like that. So I think that will then come after as well.
Yeah, in the same spirit, we have like the Bruce Schmatlock,
Yeah.
music room, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and our goal was to bring the name to the April 1st Board of Ed meeting so that the Board of Ed could vote on the name that won. So ultimately, we would be bringing forward whichever name got the most votes and we would have to vote to adopt that.
We did discuss at the last meeting as well that we perhaps need to look into a little bit more about Clarence Wadsworth Colonel, just to make sure everything's okay there. Because when you start looking back,
There's
a century or more ago, you never know whether it might be offensive or not. Also, did you get something in writing from somebody at the state?
I did, and I
Okay.
forwarded it, and I sent
A lot
an
of people
email,
don't like to
keep
commit
this
to
for your
things.
records,
Yeah.
because, yes, I know better, I get everything in writing, but I purposely said, keep this for our records, so if 30 years from now, someone's like, hey, you shouldn't have named it that, then, we have the email.
And there is a Wadsworth Family Foundation that we were gonna check with.
Yeah.
Thank you for all the work.
Yes.
I know you've had lots of meetings. I hope you're able to move better.
I know, I hope so too, a couple days, I'm sure.
And I think that's all in the item 15, public comment. Thank you for staying. Is there any public comment? Any online public comment? Like a lot of online people are still there.
We still have people online, so,
Is there no online comment? Is there?
there is, but we usually do in person first, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In person first.
In person first.
Yeah. Hope you feel better. Yeah.
Feel better.
Even though I kept moving so I could get closer, so I could hear Ron Riggett Stevens, 40 Antillean. So I appreciate all the work that everybody is doing here. I think from a lot of people's perspective in the community is the question is, was Lindsay Dahlheimer acting on behalf of the Board of Education and her actions toward Anthony DeFilio? So was there a record of it? Was there a vote? Were there text messages, emails? When I asked Sydney Leggett in a FOIA request, and I shared that with the board, do you have any evidence that she was? You answered in 4 ways, no, the information does not exist. So the question becomes, really, I understand that the insurance company has assigned an attorney and that they're going to cover her through the indemnification. But I have a question for the board is, even if the board rescinds the vote or revotes and says, no, she shouldn't be indemnified, if the insurance company gets new information that shows that she wasn't acting on behalf of the Board of Education, then she cannot be indemnified. That can be removed through reservation of rights. Is that correct? Does anybody?
Do you want me to clarify? That, as we said before, just to clarify,
Yeah.
if the insurance company at some point finds out that the individual is acting with malice, then they don't provide coverage.
But even before acting with malice, they have to be acting on behalf of the Board of Ed. That's the first litmus test. Malice is the second litmus test. And so the question for the Board of Ed, as you think about this over the next couple of weeks, is was she acting on behalf of the Board of Ed, or was she acting in a personal capacity? Because the Board of Ed was never served. Only she was served personally in this lawsuit. So this is the big contention for the community, is we don't understand that the Board of Ed was not served. There's no evidence that she was acting on behalf of the Board of Ed, yet there was a vote that was brought up to indemnify her, which has never been done before. And even the Ethics Commission said, we have never seen this type of vote, because you're automatically indemnified. And why wasn't the district served? So as you go forward over the next couple weeks, I mean, I laid out in my letter to you several of my concerns, but please look at the DCF report. Ask Lindsay for the report. Say, how was this signed? Did you sign it as an officer of the Board of Education? What about this complaint that she made at the high school? Was this, and obviously this will be done privately because it involves parents and students, and I understand that. But if she was acting on behalf of the board, then yes, she would be indemnified. But it's just because you're on the Board of Education doesn't mean that you're automatically indemnified for any actions that you take. And I don't think that somebody would not run for the Board of Ed because they're afraid of getting sued. I don't think that that's the case.
Thank you.
So anyway, thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate all of your efforts.
All right. Thank you. Any online comment?
Amanda? Coming in now?
Hi, Amanda Betty again. I agree with a lot of what Rhonda just said, but the simple fact is that there was absolutely misrepresentation, misinformation, or lack of information provided, and the vote should have never happened. When I was on the board, we were served with a lawsuit. All the members were named. I was never personally served. No one showed up at my house and served me paperwork for a lawsuit. It was taken care of. That's one of the, as Rhonda said, one of the contentions with the public at large. And I'm worried that once the insurance determines that the former Board of Ed chair was not acting in her official capacity, that they may issue a demand for reimbursement to the district for any fees that they've already paid under reservation of rights. And they're going to bill the board. And that's our tax money. You know, we're worried about making cuts to staff and providing the best education to our children. And we're going to end up on the hook for all this money because you're going to subrogate against her. And guess what? You're not going to get anything. Good luck getting the money from her. I'm just still flabbergasted that it ever happened. I'm glad that you guys are going to discuss it at the next meeting. And I really do hope you rescind it. And I hope that all of the information that Rhonda gave you, you look at, and I hope that it's provided to the insurance company as well. Thank you.
Any other comment?
Don't see any other hands up.
Nothing. Seeing none, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second? Somebody second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. Thanks, Mark. Thanks.
See you later, everyone.
Bye-bye.
See you next.